I'm not gonna lie, Jen. It was nice talking about Toy Story, and I'm glad you recommended it. But Undertale's anniversary was this month, so I feel it's only natural I talk about something from that game. Which should be on... Jen! You keep doing this just to mess with me, don't you?
I mean, who else is going to do it?
Fair enough, and, point taken.
But Bronze, before you start, I have to ask, why Undertale bosses? Why something this specific?
I'm glad you asked, Jen. I want to do this because nobody else has really done this. Talk about every single boss from Undertale individually, and being my favorite game to this day, you know I can talk about these bosses all day. Napstablook, Toriel, Papyrus, Dummy, Mediton, Undyne, Muffet.
So sorry?
Yes, even so sorry. I plan on talking about every one of these bosses as a personal love letter from me to this game.
Well, if you're passionate about what you love, more power to you.
Thanks, Jen. I knew you'd understand. Also, I've noticed that you've caught on to my lisp.
Well, I am an adapting intelligence, and you're really the only person I'm around all the time, so of course I'd pick up on your lisp.
That's something I can hopefully change in a bit if you want, but aside from that, what say we go ahead and start this video?
Whenever you're ready.
Papyrus. It's a plant, it's a paper, it's a boss and arguably the most lovable character in a video game that came out in 2015. Papyrus is a character in Undertale, brother to Sans, who I'm sure everyone watching this video knows, resident of Snowdin Town and future member of the Royal Guard. You're actually introduced to Papyrus by Sans, who tells you about him before your first encounter with the Skeleton Man, and upon coming across the human-hunting fanatic, Papyrus, you can tell by his first interaction with Sans and seeing what Papyrus has made that he's just a lovable goofball who isn't meant to be taken seriously. Everything he does is pure gold. He's like Kilgore from Teenage Robot. He's a little confused, but he's got the spirit, and it makes me love Papyrus even more. After the first few interactions with Papyrus, it's made obviously clear that you shouldn't take him seriously, and that he doesn't like conveniently shaped lamps, but he loves his puzzles. Papyrus claims that once he captures a human, he'll get respect, recognition, he'll join the Royal Guard, he'll get a bunch of friends, and showers of kisses. Also, boondoggle is a word I didn't know about until playing this game, and I didn't know it was actually a word until making this video, so I'm glad Papyrus showed it to me because I'll be using that in my vocabulary a lot more now. What does someone as great as me have to do to get some recognition? I felt on a personal level more than I probably should have, but by the end of the conversation, Sans tells you his brother isn't dangerous even if he tries to be. He even makes a sentry station out of a cardboard box and claims it's made by a very famous Royal Guardsman, then notes that he's not yet a very famous Royal Guardsman. Papyrus's dialogue is an absolute treasure. In one of his puzzles, Papyrus tries to electrocute you with it, but ends up shocking himself because he's holding the device used to shock you, which he immediately blames Sans for. I loved that. So he goes through the whole puzzle to give it to you while unintentionally revealing the puzzle at the same time. Once you solve it, Papyrus responds with, "Incredible, you slippery snail," and says you will surely be confounded because he knows he sure is. After more disbelief from more puzzles you've solved, he even offers to help you in one of them in case you can't solve it yourself. One of the puzzles is made by Sans, and it's literally just a word search from the local newspaper, and Papyrus says Junior Jumble is much harder and even asks you which is harder. That's the puzzle, and I love it. Once you get through all of Papyrus's puzzles, that includes a plate of spaghetti, a puzzle that he messed up due to boredom, and the Gauntlet of Deadly Terror, which is the most impressive thing Papyrus ever makes in this game, but he deems isn't fair, and that he's a skeleton with standards. I can't get enough of it even if Papyrus can't catch a break with puzzles. Once you go through Snowdin Town, you come across Papyrus again at the end of the town, but this time he's acting a little differently. He's very conflicted. Papyrus wants to be your friend after all the time and interactions you two have had so far, but he knows he has to capture you in order to get what he's always dreamed of, so to get a pass into the Royal Guard, he decides to fight and eventually capture you, and you're taken into a battle with him. It starts off about as much as you'd expect from Papyrus, telling you your humility reminds him of himself, while he tells you he has a blue attack. Now, up to this point, you're shown that blue means don't move in battles. Sans even reminds you about it, so you're probably expecting to not move, and this does happen. Papyrus sends a bunch of blue bones at you. You're thinking, oh, Papyrus, that's adorable. Wait, it's an actual attack? I'm blue? Papyrus is getting somewhat serious? The music's changed? What is happening? Despite what this character comes off as, Papyrus knows what he's doing in this battle and uses an actual attack, turning you blue, making your heart affected by gravity. This is a complete 180 from everything we've seen from Papyrus up to this point, and Bone Trazzle playing once things pick up makes it even more impactful. The music is kicked up a notch from this unexpected move on Papyrus's end, and afterwards, the boss battle actually feels like a boss battle now. I can't state enough how impactful Undertale's soundtrack is to the game and how wonderful it is in its own right. I stand by my statement I said in my Sunshine video saying that Undertale has a perfect soundtrack. One day I'll talk about that, but for now, back to Papyrus. Instead of waiting until Papyrus unintentionally messes things up as usual, you're actually avoiding his attacks, wondering if he's going to defeat and capture you. He throws bones, blue bones, which I'll add you were prepared for by the game very well up to this point. And even though he's actually trying, you still get the wonderful battle dialogue and text boxes in between attacks. Your humility reminds him of himself as he says, several turns go by with him putting stuff from bone cologne to marinara sauce to even Mediton brand stuff, which was a reference I really enjoyed. Behind his ears and even gloats about not thinking about a date if you flirted with him while talking about how popular he would be in the Royal Guard and what to wear on his date. The text box even says Papyrus is thinking about his date and then he immediately denies it. Papyrus starts to think to himself that nobody in the Royal Guard or any of his admirers will be as cool as you. The text box even says that Papyrus is preparing a non-bone attack, then spends a minute fixing his mistake, and after all those turns of dabbing stuff behind his ears, Papyrus realizes he doesn't even have ears. It's never mentioned afterwards where all of that stuff went, and I love it. But before we go into further detail, I gotta make money somehow. We'll be right back after these messages.
One! Smile, you miserable! Two! Snap out of it, you torment me! I'm hurt now!
Game!
Get a chair! What?
Anything hurting, Jen?
No, you're fine.
Alright, I know your voice box is still in the works, but I want to make sure you're in top condition for your debut. Let's see, move those wires there, reprogram that.
How do I sound now?
You sound like you did in the Honey Pop 2 video. Nothing wrong with that, but let me try this. You wire that there, put that there.
How about now?
A little too deep like you were in the Mario 35 video. Hang on, let me reprogram this circuit board a little bit and...
Bronze?
I'm changing it back, don't worry.
Looks like you're going to the Shadow Realm, Jimbo.
Oh, finally. Ugh. Hey, who's got my hat? Give me that.
Alright, now that we're back, let's continue. Even if Papyrus defeats you, he doesn't kill you, instead putting you in his shed to be taken to Undyne, which you can easily escape due to the jail bars being too far apart, and the door always being unlocked. He even left you a bowl of dry food, a chew toy, and a dog bed too. How considerate of him. If you don't end up being captured and go to the very end of the battle at the first try, Papyrus has conflicted feelings on giving you to Undyne and decides to let you go, and that's really it, but I want to talk about being captured because that path is so much funnier to talk about. After you escape the capture zone, Papyrus is relieved that he found you instead of you being lost, then he realizes you escaped, and if you get captured again, Papyrus even insists you ask before escaping because he was worried sick you went missing, and even cuts up a hot dog and adds it to your dry food to make you feel more comfortable. He didn't even fucking cook it, I bet. Also, I didn't even realize that one of the text boxes says Papyrus is rattling his bones. I just thought Bone Rattling Boss Fight was a fitting name, and now it is even more. Even if you can't get past him the second time, Papyrus thinks you keep escaping because he promised to make you spaghetti, saying afterwards that you're persistent, but he's persistentist, and tells you are not as persistent as Papyrus the persistentist. That's a whole mouthful. Back in the capture zone, Papyrus says in his note that if we're looking for a place to stay, we just need to ask instead of fighting him, and signs as your host, Papyrus. I've said it already and I'll say it again, I love Papyrus, especially his dialogue. Eventually, Papyrus comes up with the idea after you escape the third time that you miss seeing his face and decides that you're friendly, so he lets you pass, making him the only boss in the game you're guaranteed to get past. Damn it. Okay, I'll reword that. Papyrus is the only boss that lets you go without necessarily battling him. There. Now, if you do get past all of Papyrus's attacks, including the really big bone attack and his special attack that's just another bone attack, but a dog, which I'm guessing is Toby, is chewing on and takes away. That's another thing that makes me love this battle. Afterwards, you have the option to either choose to be Papyrus's friend or call him a loser. I never had the heart to call him a loser, so I don't know what happens when you pick that, but if you choose to be his friend, he tells you how to exit the underground, he tells you about Asgore, and if you flirted with him, he even offers you to go on a date meaning hangout in this game. You don't actually take him out to dinner or hold hands with him or anything. And once you go on a date with him, he tells you that the worst Fire Emblem is better than the best Paper Mario. Wait a minute. Damn it, Jen! He tells you he has the perfect place in mind. His house. How could you not love Papyrus after this? His room just shows what kind of lovable person Papyrus is. His favorite book is Peekaboo with Fluffy Bunny. The ending always gets him. I laughed so much when I first saw that. It's so fitting to his character, and going on a date with him just adds on to it even more, and he even references Comic Sans when you interact with his computer. Toby knew what he was doing when he made this game. Even after his boss battle, Papyrus is still relevant to the story up to the end, unless you take the other options. Killing Papyrus was probably one of the hardest things I had to do in Undertale, especially in the genocide route. Just like in about every boss battle in the game, you can kill the character and even have the option to stab them in the back when they try to spare you. Doing this, however, changes a lot of things in the game, including the character's opinions on you. The genocide route is just the absolute worst when it comes to Papyrus's battle, and the entire game, honestly. Instead of having a battle with him, Papyrus wants you to stop and offers to spare you and spend time with him if you do so. Killing him isn't fun. I found no joy in doing it, just regret after what I've done, which is something I felt a lot in the genocide route. Papyrus tries so hard to convince you to stop, and his death is just tragic to witness, and it makes you feel even worse because you did it to him. And the game makes you feel bad about what you do, too, and that's part of the experience in Undertale, and just hate hearing when people say they just watched someone play the genocide route, because this route is a part of the experience. You don't feel that level of regret when watching someone else play it because you didn't do it yourself. It doesn't mean as much then. If you want the full experience, you gotta play it all. I knew when I played this game that I had to do genocide, and I was fully prepared to kill everyone because that's just what I had to do to get that experience. And I'm glad I did. It added more emotion and depth onto this game for me, and just hearing people back out of genocide and watch playthroughs just feels like it lessens the experience. In for a penny, in for a pound, right? But I'm rambling, back to Papyrus. Now, as I go through all of these boss battles, I'm going to be ranking them based on which I feel the best and worst as a little side thing to do in this video series. Now, with this being my first video on all of these boss battles, it's just Papyrus's, so I guess he's at the top? I mean, it's a good starting place. Who doesn't love Papyrus? His boss battle was overall a great experience gameplay-wise, a joy to witness character-wise, a joy to listen to soundtrack-wise, and shows us that even the silliest of characters can get somewhat serious when it comes down to it. All of these reasons and many more are why I think Papyrus has a bone-rattling boss fight. Thanks to everyone for watching, thanks to Jen for helping me with this video. As always, she can't really talk because I almost messed up her voice box off screen, but she'll be fine by next video. And as always, take care, and have a good one.